This is called Grandma Ida Comes to Visit Quack Quack. Quack Quack was very excited. Today, Grandma Ida was coming to stay for the weekend. She was arriving that day on the train from her home in Beechington by the Sea. Quack Quack was so pleased that her grandma was coming to see her that she told the whole village about the visit. Quack Quack's best friend Herbie Bear, who lived next door, and Otto Brown, who owned the garden centre, were coming to tea that afternoon to meet Quack Quack's grandma. After lunchtime, a taxi stopped outside Quack Quack's cottage, and out stepped Granny Ida. Quack Quack ran down her path and flung open the gate, running into Grandma Ida's open arms, and they both gave each other a big hug. "Oh, it's lovely to see you, Grandma," said Quack Quack. "Even lovelier for me to see my favourite grand duck," smiled Grandma Ida. "Come on inside my cottage and let's get settled," Quack Quack offered, and with that they went into Drake Cottage. "How was your journey?" Quack Quack asked, as she helped Grandma Ida take off her coat. "Oh, it absolutely flew by. By the time I'd read the newspaper and looked at all the countryside through the window, I was arriving at Puddleton," she answered. Grandma Ida adjusted the glasses which were balanced on the end of her beak to look around Quack Quack's cosy lounge. "Well, it all seems nice and clean and tidy in your cottage," she exclaimed. "Very pretty indeed," she remarked, and wandered out in the garden to inspect the flowers. A bumblebee flew out of a rose, going around its business, and nearly landed on Grandma Ida's beak as she bent down to smell the flower. She pushed her glasses up her beak, humphed, stood up straight, and made her way back into the cottage. There was a knock at the front door, and Quack Quack answered it to see Herbie. Come in," she quacked. "Grandma Ida's already here." She led Herbie into the lounge, where Grandma Ida was standing by the fire. "Hello, Herbie, and how lovely to see you," said Grandma Ida with a big smile. No sooner had they sat down than there was another knock at the door, and it was Otto Brown. "Otto, do come in. Granny Ida is really looking forward to meeting you," said Quack Quack. They walked into the lounge, where Quack Quack said, "Grandma, I don't think you've met before. This is—" But before she could finish, Grandma Ida's eyes sparkled, and she said, "Otto Brown, well, I never—" "Ida Down?" he exclaimed. "It is, isn't it?" "Yes," she replied. "I can't believe it." "Do you already know each other?" Quack Quack asked. Yes," she replied. "Otto and I had many, many years ago. We were next door neighbours, just like you and Herbie are now." "My goodness, this is quite a lovely surprise," said Otto. "We must catch up on all our news." "Well, why don't you have a walk around the village and have a good talk whilst Herbie and I get the tea ready?" suggested Quack Quack. "Oh, a very good idea," replied Otto, and with that Grandma Ida and Otto disappeared out of the cottage and headed toward the village centre. "Well, I never," said Quack Quack to Herbie. "I never thought my grandma would know Otto." Only a few minutes passed, and there was an urgent knock at the door. It was Otto. "Quack Quack, Grandma Ida has lost her glasses on the end of her beak, and they've fallen down a drain," he cried. "We were walking down the lane, busy talking, and we didn't see Bert and Ernie running towards us, playing tag, and one of them bumped into Grandma Ida, and her glasses fell off her beak and went into the drain. Bert and Ernie are just sitting with her while I came back to get you." "We'll come straight away," said Quack Quack, looking worried. "Oh, there's always some mischief with those two monkeys," she hurriedly said, as they all made their way out of the cottage. She, Herbie and Otto raced down the lane, where Grandma Ida was sat on a bench looking rather miserable, and with Bert and Ernie sat either side of her. "Are you all right?" said Quack Quack. "Yes, I'm fine, and don't go blaming those two little monkeys, as it really wasn't their fault. I was so busy talking to Otto, I wasn't looking where I was going." Bert and Ernie looked up at Quack Quack, both with serious faces. "We really didn't do anything naughty this time," they both chorused. "No, I know," replied Quack Quack, "but we still got to get Grandma Ida's glasses back." Quack Quack sat down on the bench and looked at Herbie, Otto, and the monkeys, and scratched her head. "Any ideas, anyone?" she said. "I can't think of anything," answered Herbie rather gloomily. "Neither can I," added Otto, and they all stayed silent, thinking. Bert and Ernie, meanwhile, were whispering, grinning and chattering to each other, and then they suddenly jumped up. "We know what to do," they beamed, and before anyone could say anything, they disappeared off. "What are they up to?" inquired Grandma Ida. "Well, I don't know, but let's hope it's not something naughty," answered Quack Quack. But a few minutes later they returned with Monty Moose. "Hello, Monty," everyone chorused. "But how can you help us, though?" asked Otto. "Well," replied Monty, "these two clever monkeys came to tell me the problem, and they had a very sensible idea." With that, he bent down to look at the drain, and seeing Grandma Ida's glasses at the bottom, he gently lowered his head until his antler went right through the gaps in the drain. He slowly moved his antler back and forth, and after a moment he exclaimed, "That's it!" and with a quick flick he pulled his antler out of the drain with Granny Ida's glasses hooked onto the end. "Oh, how clever you are!" exclaimed Grandma Ida, and placed her glasses firmly back on her beak. "Thank you so much, and how clever of you to think of it as well," she said, turning to Bert and Ernie and giving them a big cuddle. "Yuck," said the twins, squirming on the seat, and then really realising that they'd really been quite clever, both grinned cheeky smiles. "Well, I think that's enough excitement for one day," sighed Quack Quack. "Why doesn't everyone come back to my cottage for afternoon tea? And Monty, fetch Matilda as well." With that, they all made their way back to Quack Quack's cottage and squeezed into her lounge. Monty had to stick one of his antlers out of the window, and the two monkeys were squashed onto one chair, but no one minded, and they all enjoyed a delicious tea with sandwiches, cakes and biscuits. "Well," said Quack Quack later that evening, after everyone had gone, "I'm exhausted now, but thank goodness it all ended well. Can we have a quieter day tomorrow, please, Grandma?" But Grandma Ida didn't hear her, as she was sitting in the rocking chair by the fire, her glasses halfway down her beak, and she was already fast asleep.